Thank you everybody for coming, and I'm going to hand over to Seb. We've got a series of things we want to talk about and announce. So, Seb, over to you.
Thank you for all being here today, and I'm delighted. I know my council have been delighted to be in Rome for the last few days. And I'm particularly delighted to be in a city I actually lived in for the best part of 3 years. Looking at Franco Fava sitting in front of me, who was one of my regular training partners, but actually never dobbed me in as to the fact that I was in Rome preparing for the Olympic Games and half the world was looking for me. I'm always grateful for that confidentiality, Franco. It's been a very, very busy week at the end of a very, very busy year. We had the executive board meeting at the beginning of the week and the council meetings, and tomorrow John and I then undertake together with Anna Riccardi as board members of Diamond League. We have 2 days of Diamond League meetings. We have the Diamond League board and then the General Assembly on Friday. I thought it was probably just helpful, given that it's the end of the year, to review the year that we've been through. And it's been well, I really don't need to tell any of you here, it's been an immensely strong year for athletics. And if I may just go through a few of the numbers, because I think they're worth a revisit. I took my council through these. We've hosted 4 World Athletics Series events this year, and they have involved over 4,000 competitors from 180 different countries. There were 553 national records set, and we reached a cumulative global TV audience of 750 million. That, I hasten to add, is on linear TV. That's live and, of course, highlighted. When you take into consideration digital, the cumulative audience rises to above 1 billion, and that's just over our 4. Those are over our 4 World Championship events this year. Something that's taken very seriously within World Athletics now is the economic impact that our events make on communities, countries, and the World Indoor Championships in Belgrade made a contribution of $46 million. And the World Outdoor Championships in Oregon, 237. You don't need to be mathematicians to know that's a cumulative total of 280 million. We're still awaiting the numbers to come from our under-20 championships in Cali. And of course, we can share those with you as soon as we get them. We had 162 continental tour events. Again, that included 12,000 athletes, and they competed across 159 or from 159 countries. And here our athletes recorded 2 area records, 118 national records. And I think phenomenally, there were just under 2,400 personal bests set in those continental tour events. We will be receiving the Wanda Diamond League numbers actually probably over the next couple of days, and of course we can share those with you when we get them. Road is important, not the end of the year yet, but we've had over 200 events with 3 million people participating, and that has in terms of economic impact for us, that's about $1.7 million in terms of licensing, label agreements, and 72,000 of that went to the AIU in terms of its contribution to doping, anti-doping processes around the marathon majors. Our website had 33 million visitors with over 1 billion hits on our competition stats database. Our media coverage has reached 10 billion people, and our social media followers grew to 10 million. 50 federations and over 9,000 kids were involved with the Kids Athletics Day, which we launched when we launched our new Kids Athletics program. And that is a very key element and pillar of our objectives next year. So a good year for athletics. Now, if I may just take you through the decisions that were taken at the council over the last few days. First, I'm absolutely delighted to announce that the recommendation from the bid evaluation panel to the council for the destination of the 2024 World Relay Championships was in essence awarded to and approved. The recommendation was approved to go to the Bahamas and Nassau particularly. This is an important Olympic Games qualifier. We sort of added the jeopardy of making sure that this event had the added component of qualification. And it was considered that the Bahamas were the best conditions for the atmosphere, for the athletes, and the atmosphere engendered in the relays event ahead of the 2024 Paris Olympic Games. So our congratulations to the Bahamas. I spoke to the team leadership of Lausanne straight afterwards and explained the situation, and I know they're very keen to remain on that landscape and maybe for future bids. I'm really pleased also that the council agreed the recommendation to add the road mile, fairly close to my heart, to the list of officially recognized world record events from January the 1st, 2023. The third decision was, in order to continue to support the development of road running, especially the growth of road miles and 5K races, the council agreed to change the current frequency of our world road running championships. They're currently biennial. We agreed to change those to an annual rotation, and that will start in 2025. We also had a discussion on our agenda about Kenya, and that came under the AIU report. There's been a lot of reportage over the last few weeks, some of which has been correct and some of which has actually not been correct. So I thought I'd clarify the situation. Following the conversations with the Kenyan sports minister over the last few weeks about the doping situation in Kenya, we've made some real progress. And I'd like to thank here particularly the Athletic Integrity Unit, my teams at World Athletics, and of course the Federation President from Athletics Kenya, Jackson Tuwe. I received a letter from the sports minister, a copy of which I've been given permission to share with you. We don't routinely share letters of that nature, but the Kenyan Ministry of Sport has been keen that we do share that with you. I received a letter last week, and in it, really, the government has confirmed its agreement to add a further $5 million US dollars over $5 million a year over 5 years. This will fund more people, more tests, more investigations, and certainly bolster the already comprehensive education programs. The Athletics Integrity Unit will continue to work closely with Kenya to implement the plan and to help with communicating the processes or progress and achievements. Building back trust will be a long journey. This has been, I know that the Kenyan Federation and Kenyan government feels this has been a disfiguring period in what should have been a Herculean period for Kenyan athletics. But I'm really delighted because actually all the stakeholders that matter, both domestically and internationally, are now aligned in coming together to really do everything we can to resolve this situation. We also had a 2-hour information session outside the council meeting to discuss the review we're undertaking on our DSD regulations and on our transgender regulations. As you will know, the review, as we identified some weeks ago, is underway, and a preferred option for both sets of regulations was presented to the council members. It was agreed that this preferred option would be consulted on with member federations, athletes, and other stakeholders over the coming months, with the results and the final recommendation to be presented to Council for a decision at our March Council meeting. As most of you will know, we have always said our regulations we've said that our regulations in this area and all areas are subject to review at any and all times. In terms of these regulations, we will continue to do what we have always done, which is to follow the science, and that science and research over more than a decade. We have this in store. We are really keen to make sure that we continue to follow the science on this, which has not led us into difficult territories in the past. But the key element here, of course, is to protect the female category and maintain fairness in all our competitions and remain at the same time as inclusive as possible. So some additional work is being prepared following the Council information session, and it was a very detailed information session. This has been completed. Once this has been completed, we will share the option that we will be consulting on. And of course, we had an update from Rune and the task force he chairs on the reinstatement of RusAF. So let me hand over immediately to Rune to run you through their recommendations, which again were unanimously supported by the Council. Rune, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Seb. So earlier this year, in response to the invasion in Ukraine, the World Athletics Council excluded Russia and Belarus from World Series events, but asked the Russia task force to continue independently of that issue, to monitor and oversee RusAF's efforts to satisfy the anti-doping conditions set by Council for RusAF's reinstatement to membership. In October and November, at the request of the task force, an expert team audited RusAF's progress against the key performance indicators set out in the RusAF reinstatement plan, approved by Council in March 2021. Last week, the task force met with the lead auditor to discuss their findings together with the independent experts. The discussion revealed that the current RusAF leadership team has embedded a new culture of good governance and zero tolerance for doping throughout the organization, that it has also taken concrete steps to spread that culture throughout the regions, and that RusADA also appears to be working effectively at an operational level, including conducting testing of Russian athletes that appears, subject to further checking, to be of sufficient quantity and quality. In addition, RusAF has taken various additional steps of its own initiative that were not required by the reinstatement plan. And finally, RusADA has received more whistleblowing reports about athletics than about any other sport. These points may be seen as evidence that cultural change is starting to take root in Russian athletics. Whether that cultural change can be sustained in the long term remains to be seen. However, the task force noted that, first, RusAF's strengthening internal governance system will be a check on any recidivism and will mean it will be obvious if it emerges. Second, the close monitoring and oversight of RusAF will not end when its suspension from membership of World Athletics is lifted. Instead, the Athletics Integrity Unit will take over that task with dedicated staff on site in Moscow and in the AIU, monitoring RusAF's compliance with a detailed set of post-reinstatement conditions that go far beyond those imposed to any other national federation. And third, to deter any interference, the task force will recommend that Council response to any material failure to meet those post-reinstatement conditions notified to it by the AIU by moving to expel RusAF permanently from membership of World Athletics. A couple of points remain outstanding, in particular, as well as finalizing the post-reinstatement conditions. The task force wants to meet with the RusAF leadership team again after Peter Ivanov returns to RusAF president on 17th December this year. Subject to those points, however, the task force expects to be in a position by March 2023 to make a final recommendation to Council on the reinstatement of RusAF. Again, I need to emphasize that consideration of that issue will be independent of and will not affect any measures taken by Council in response to the invasion of Ukraine.
Thank you.
Rune, thank you very much. But I think before we move to questions, I do need to make sure that there is a clear and understood clarification here. We have two sets of sanctions against the member federation of Russia. The first, of course, is the reinstatement process, which we have been moving forward on painstakingly in the last 7 years. I'm Jeff Gardner. One of my vice presidents is a member of that task force. I've got Abby Hoffman at the back of the room as well. You can find those reinstatement conditions absolutely on our website, and they're clear and there's no ambiguity about that. And we are moving through those phases as Rune has quite rightly reported. The second sanction, of course, the Council passed in our March meeting just on the eve of the World Team Racewalk Championships. This sanction excludes Russian athletes, support personnel and officials from Russia and Belarus from all our World Series athletics events until further notice, as a consequence, of course, of the unlawful invasion of Ukraine. Following those questions, I'd like to make a short presentation actually to a guest that I've asked to join us today. So, Jackie, back to you.
Thanks, Seb. So we've got questions. We have some people online, so you can put your questions into the chat, and we have a number of journalists here in the room. So I'm going to start with the room because no one's chatting online. It's dull. So I'm going to start with all of you. Who would like to ask a question? Wow, this could be quick.
Good, supper beckons.
Seriously, Franco, nothing? And the reason you need a microphone is because of all the people online, because there's that.
Regarding the last point about Russia, Seb, could you explain a little more and what's going to happen regarding the Russia? Because it's very clear that you have two different kind of sanction. Let's have more information about the sanction was given to Russia since 2015, end of 2015. What will happen in the next few months? Thanks.
Yeah, look, it's fairly straightforward. The task force reported to the council today, as it does at all our council meetings, that progress, as Rune has said, progress is being made. Some of the issues around cultural change and communication and all the other things are moving in the right direction. The final recommendation, a final recommendation will be made to the council in March, and that will be about the reinstatement of the Russian Federation. However, as you quite rightly point out, RusAF's progress on its reinstatement plan will have no bearing on any council decision on RusAF status arising from the war in Ukraine. So thank you. I'm glad you recognize that there is a very, very clear distinction between the work that the task force has undertaken. We made a judgment about 6 months to a year ago that we needed to continue to see that through. We've Russia was initially suspended back on November the 13th in 2015. So, a lot of work has taken place. And, if you look at the work that we've done with the international experts, the work that's been done with the Athletics Integrity Unit, the task force itself, and the fact that some of those independent experts are now embedded within the work of RusAF. The real work is being done, and the council, the task force, has felt as Runa pointed out, that it will be in a position in March to make a recommendation around the reinstatement.
Thanks. I've got 3 questions online, so I'll just scoot through those quickly, in no particular order, but let's just cover Russia. Rune, this one's for you. If March is when you will be delivering a final report from the task force, what is it that they are currently not ready? What if they are not? Oh, what if they're not ready to reinstate? Will the process continue? Sorry, Mike, can't read writing.
Well, if that happens, there are certain issues that needs to be resolved, as I mentioned, before March of next year. So if those issues are not resolved, then we will have to discuss in the task force what to do. Even though we say final decision, we need to discuss that in the task force and with the council on what to do. So I cannot predict, but we hope sincerely that all the issues that needs to be resolved before that time will be resolved.
And if it's not resolved, the task force will continue, yes?
We haven't discussed that. We were just saying that we will make a final decision on reinstatement at that stage, but we will need to discuss that in the task force if that happens.
Okay, then there's 2 questions about Kenya. So Seb, they're for you. I'm going to ask them both together. The first one from Mike Rowbottom is, how close did Kenya come to a serious suspension? Was it mooted, i.e. a 2 or 3 year ban? And then Eddie Pels has asked just to clarify the exact situation with Kenya, where it stands. Is it a category A federation? Is there anything else that people need to know?
No, look, I'm not going to, I never have maintained a running commentary on discussions that take place quite rightly, calmly and collectively within the council. What I can say is that World Athletics has been concerned. I mean, Kenya are on the watch list already, have been for some years, partly because of the profile the sport has, because the watch list is in large part compiled not just by the number of positive tests, but also by the importance and the number of elite athletes that a country has. So it's a careful blend, but no, I think it's pretty clear that World Athletics has taken very seriously the escalating problem that has arisen in Kenya. Over the course of 1 year, 40% of all the positives recorded in global athletics are in Kenya. So this was not something that the sport, and certainly not something that World Athletics was prepared just to sort of sit and allow to develop. What I am pleased to say is that with the Kenyan government, its response and the access that is now given to some really serious funding to try and resolve this as quickly as they possibly can. Although my instinct is it is still a long journey. The work of the AIU, which I have complete confidence in to monitor and work through that. And also the importance and recognition of government at the very highest level and from the very highest level, that this is not a situation that is sustainable. So I'm pleased that we've got a united response here. The only way this can be dealt with is not It's not piecemeal. It has to be collectively driven through all those stakeholders domestically and internationally that have a role and responsibility in trying to resolve this as quickly as possible.
Thanks, Seb. We've got a question from BBC Africa. Hi, Lynn. How are you? It's a question about how crucial was the letter that you received from the Kenya Sports Minister as a sign of commitment by the country in its fight against doping?
The letter was very important. The letter is very important that for recognition from government, from the highest levels of government, that this is an issue that was disfiguring. And Kenyan athletics is not just important to us globally. Kenyan athletics is very important for the brand values of Kenya. It's something that people, understand. It's a sport that is a passion, but it is a sport that needed some collective support and help with. So yeah, that letter committing 25 million over 5 years that will allow us to to reinforce the education programs, to look at the regionality of some of the challenges. I hope also a deeper dive into the conduct of the entourage that is around some of the athletes, including coaches and athlete representatives. All these things allow us more, just more horsepower, more resource to be able to really challenge some of these issues.
Just looking around the room, do I want to ask a question? Otherwise, I'll go back to the online questions. No, we'll have to go back. Mark Vanchiak, hi Mark, our friend from the Keep, has asked, I feel like I should read the whole question. I'm not sure it's going to make people laugh or not. Hello, happy taxpayers, is how he starts. Could you give us some information about the Paris 2024 race walking event? I don't know, Seb, whether you want to do that or John?
You want to take it, John?
Work goes on. So in terms of Paris 2024, we have the two 20-kilometer road walking races that will take place. And then we are continuing to do work with the IOC in terms of a mixed relay, mixed gender event. And that work's not concluded yet. It will be concluded very soon, because clearly it needs to be tested in advance of Paris, and all the athletes need to know exactly what they're preparing. But this was at the request of the IOC, and we're working with them, and the race walking community are working with them to conclude as quickly as possible, so everybody knows exactly what's going to be staged come Paris in 2024.
Okay, thanks, John. Franco in the room.
Can I just put a question, John, regarding Paris 2024 in less than 2 years' time? I've seen that the athletics program went up 2 days more than we had in the past, from 9 to 11 days of competition. And it's not clear to me the change who are going to take place regarding the qualification system inside the games. It seems that some events will not taken care anymore to go to the next level for the fastest time, but just for the position. How is going to work? Which kind of event competition will be included in this new system? Thanks.
Yes, there's certainly more athletics and more athletic sessions that will be staged at the Paris 2024 Games than have been staged in previous games, and it just shows the popularity of what we always describe as the #1 sport within the Olympics. And the Paris Games are looking to sell, I think the number is 1 million tickets, or circa 1 million tickets, in terms of people that will sit within that stadium in Paris and experience the athletics, which I think is a great positive for the sport of athletics. In terms of the qualification system, which the exact detail, we had a debate at council, but the exact detail is still being worked through. But I think you referred to the repechage system. So how we're up till now, athletes have progressed to the next round either by winning their place through right or being a fastest qualifier. We're going to replace that system for some disciplines with a repechage system where instead an athlete goes into an additional round, so they have a second chance effectively to win through to the next round. So the exact disciplines, the exact format of that is still being concluded, and we'll be able to share that with you all early next year. But the final touches to that are being put in place. But it's an exciting new step, which, as I said, will both create a second chance for athletes to qualify for the next round, but also will create more content as well for the additional sessions that will be held across Paris, because, as I said, there'll be more athletics than ever before at the Paris Games, which we're very excited about as a sport.
Thanks, John. I'm going to go to a question here and then I'll come back into the room. It's from Eddie. Hi, Eddie. It's probably one for you, Seb. There seems to be some movement in the larger Olympic world to find a way to get Russia back in the loop despite the war. Are you hearing this? Does that influence you? What is World Athletics looking for when it considers possible reinstatement of Russia in regards to the war?
I think this is fairly simple. Get out of Ukraine.
Great. Okay, back to the room.
Hi, Elisabetta Caporale. Just in addition of what Franco asked, this repechage format will start maybe from the World Championship in Budapest, or is just starting from Paris?
Just Paris.
Oh, okay, thanks. Just this.
And then Mark from L'Equipe says, what about cross country in LA 2028?
So is that Mark Ventura?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Where would we be without that
Mark.
question? Well, look, we did try for Paris. That wasn't going to happen for a number of reasons. Partly cited was cost, although I'm not sure I really accept that as a particularly valid argument. But no, the IOC, in fairness, has left the door open for us to discuss this with the LA organizing committee, which we have already started those discussions, and that's really where we are.
Okay, and then another question from Hiroki Toda. Hi, Hiroki. From Japan, WADA will start, and this is probably for you, actually, Bruna. WADA will start discussing their reinstatement plan for RusAF this December, and they said it might take some time. How will that affect or not affect the reinstatement of RusAF next March?
Yeah, we are fully aware of the fact that WADA has said that even though the CAS decision ends on the 17th of December this year, WADA will continue to look into RusAF in order to have them reinstated at some stage, but it's not an automatic reinstatement of RusAF. What we have had clear from WADA is that the operational level of RusAF is working well. The governance structure and rules and regulations in the government of Russia and in RusAF is something WADA will be looking into, but the operational level is working, and that is what we are concerned about. We want testing of Russian track and field athletes to be meaningful, to be effective and efficient, but also based on sound principles like the test distribution planning, risk assessment, and all those elements which are in the international standard for testing and investigations. So we have, after discussing this with WADA, felt confident that the operational level of RusAF is working well.
That way you're clicking your fingers at me. Okay. So we do that and then we'll have some other questions. No, Franco, it's fine. Well, but we can't keep this person waiting. You will understand when you meet them. Can they come in? Whoever's bringing them in. You. Sorry. No, go and sit where we're sitting. Do you want to go out front? Oh, okay. Oh, right, you sit there. Do you want to move over from here? Now you want to talk? Is that what you want to speak? Yep. Mic on. John? John, can you turn the mic on?
I'd like to very, very warmly welcome my guest today, Yevhen Provin, who is the Federation President from the Ukraine Athletics Track and Field Federation. You will know that I have within my gift created in 2015 when I became president the President's Award. And in the past, I've given the award to individuals who have often served their sport over a lifetime and achieved great things on behalf of athletics. This year, I decided to do something slightly different because I don't think I really need to go into huge detail about the Herculean effort that the Ukraine Federation has made in keeping their athletes in competition in the most extraordinary and frankly appalling conditions that any sovereign state has witnessed for many years. I spoke to Yevhen within hours of the illegal invasion of his country. And we started a dialogue about what it was that we could do immediately to help. In response, and I'm sure he was never ever going to do anything other than this, he has and his federation have maintained a presence in every World Athletics Series event that we've had this year. And beyond that to the European Championships in Munich at the end of the year. And to just put that into context, within days of the invasion of Ukraine, Ukraine still managed to send a junior athlete who performed incredibly well to take a 4th position in the junior element of our Team World Race Walk Championships in Oman. They were present with a depleted but a very exciting young team in Eugene. They made it to Calais and, of course, had a strong presence in the European Championships. So this year, the President's Award, I'm delighted to say, will go to the Ukraine Federation, not an individual, because Yevhen will be the first to admit that he has a team sitting behind him, but to the athletes, the coaches, the technical officials, the parents and friends and family of those competitors who have maintained a presence, sometimes outside the country, training in camps where they were when the invasion took place. So for all those reasons, and the fact that World Athletics has been in the background supporting and helping in everything that you've achieved so far this year, and congratulations for the performances that your teams have enjoyed. I'm delighted to award you the President's Award for 2022, and I'm equally delighted that you managed under equally difficult circumstances to be with us in Rome just for a few hours. Many minutes.
Thank you for awesome words. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to see all of you. As Seb said before, it's our honor and it's award for our federation, for our coaches, for our sportsmen, athletes, for our officials. I want to prefer this award for our soldiers that keeping safe all our country, and for Ukrainian people, for all Ukrainian nation. Thank you very much. And I just want to say that every time in council meetings, in official meetings, not official meetings, everybody told a friendship. We know that we have friends in all of the world, but just after February 24, we understand who is that, and we understood that we have a friend, our friend in all of the world, in your types and in your behaviors. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I want to add, I tell before that my mother says that in dark times, your special class sees the bright people, and we see the bright people from athletic family in February 24, because first of all, we get a council and decide do not participate, do not send our athletes in international championship. But after 3 hours, I collect our board and council in the Zoom session more time, because it's a little bit panic. And I told that our anthem must sound in all of the world, and our flag must be in all competition. And we participate, European Athletic and World Athletic help us because they found a foundation, and we can participate in our athletes was in all world and European championship per year. And Ukrainian flag was signed on European and World Championship per year, and our anthem sound all years. And of course, our sportsmen and officials can communicate with mass media and journalists and told what's happened in Ukraine. Thank you very much for this chance, and thank you very much that we have a friends. Thank you.
Thank you. Evans agreed to answer a couple of questions before he heads out. So we're very lucky to have him. The military allowed us to have him here for a couple of days. So does anyone have any questions? Can you see the award behind the microphone? Behind the microphone. Again, if anyone wants any questions online, I know that means, typing very quickly. Someone's typing. No? Okay. Well, I think if there's any last other questions, then please do stay for the rest. It won't be long. Okay.
Regarding Ukraine, we all know what your athlete has done during this difficult season, and I would like to know what are you preparing to put all your athletes in condition to compete again, to face all the next year international event. Are you preparing something? Are you doing something special more than you have already done? Thanks.
Thank you for the question. First of all, of course, we must compete, and we understand it. Our athletes must compete. But now in Ukraine, there are no electricity, and there are no stadiums, and we have no chance to train in Ukraine. Of course, we have some territory for the camp in west side of Ukraine, in mountain side of Ukraine, near the border of Poland. But I can guarantee to my athletes that Russians do not send rockets in the west part of Ukraine, because when they start rocket attack, they put rockets in all part of Ukraine. And I must think like more strategy. And of course, with World Athletic, maybe with European Athletic and our sponsors, we start organized camps in all of Europe. Now, elite part of our athletes situated based in Portugal, some athletes based in the United States of America. We signed a memorandum with Cardiff University, and all our sprinter team now situated in Slovakia, but after that, our team come in Cardiff. We start a big project of relocation of our young talent in United States of America, and in January 12 athletes go to United States of America. And of course, I understand that we can organize the camps of training, and of course we will compete next season. But it's like 10% of our athletes, because it's just elite group. But 90% of our athletes stay in Ukraine, because it's difficult to get permit across the board for boys, of course. And for girls, they do not want leave their family in Ukraine, because families stay in Ukraine. It's a big problem for us, but I think that in 2023, war will end with Ukrainian victory, and with our board like 1994 years with Crimea and Donbass, and I think everything will be okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got one question online. How did you feel when world gold was won at the World Indoors in the high jump after a 3-day journey to get there?
It's about Serbia, Belgrade, yes? Yes. It's most emotionally for me, because it was March, I think, 16, and Russian army was near the Kiev, and I communicated with our soldiers, and our soldiers sent me a photo with Yaroslava Moguchich, and I asked them, you see live translation of athletic in front line, why? And they answer me, and they answer because it's like 90% of bad news. And of course, if you can get 1% of good news, you must do it. And it was jumping of Yaroslava Moguchich and Maria Behramanchuk, 2 medals. Just 6 person from Ukraine was in Belgrade in the championship. And from 6 person, 2 medals. And after that, I think about how many athletes we must send to international championship. It's really good statistic. In Oregon, same situation, 22 athletes, yeah. The most small team in our summer in Eugene championship, summer world championship, and we get, I think, 3 medals. After that, in Munich, 2 medals. Good statistic. Maybe we don't send 65 athletes like before in international championship. We just send 6 or 10. And they will win. Of course, it jokes. I was happy, like one of the most happy person in the world, because it's my sport, it's my federation, and it's Yaroslava Moguchich. You know, she's cried because she do not want to leave Ukraine. She do not want to leave Ukraine. And I press Yulia Levchenko, I press Irina Gerashchenko, because they spent 4 days from Kiev, from Ukraine to Belgrade, and they told me, early we spent 2 hours, now we spend 4 days. Why we must do it? I said, because you get medal, of course, and this was good result.
That's great. Thank you very much. Okay, I think that is probably the end. So thank you everyone for your time. Thank you to all of those online. You know how to reach us if you have any follow-up questions. So thank you and congratulations on the award.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.